Jake loves Heather with all of his heart. There was something with their connection that words couldn't conceive. Together, time stood still, and looking into her eyes, he saw himself in the divine form. She swore her life that they were meant to be, and nothing would ever separate them. So how did he end up in a hotel room years later, sitting in bed, listening to her say she would never marry him, that he was a manipulator, trash, and all their time together was a lie and a waste of her time? When he looked into her phone just hours prior, he saw what his fear wanted him to see: lies. Now, he wasn't perfect either, but how did that couple go from grace to the fall? How does this pure love fall apart? And is it possible to get back? And how do you do that? Well, today I'm going to simply lay out 5 key advanced principles to win her heart back despite all possible odds. And the 5th principle allows you to have complete control over the scenario. So stick around for that, but let's jump in. The first principle is that paranoia creates the persecution. Your paranoia creates the persecution it seeks to avoid. Now, early on, Jake was cheated on in his first marriage. His wife left him for another man. It was an early marriage that only lasted about 5 years, but it etched a poison in his mind, an idea that silently pulled the strings of fate for his love life. You see, he was devastated. Whenever we experience extreme trauma or pain or just loss of love and attachment, your brain has to reorient itself. There's almost a split or diversion of parts of yourself is splitting apart, and new parts are developed in order to protect you. And when it comes to love, when people experience trauma with their parents or first loves or a first marriage like Jake, what happens is that this new bodyguard gets developed and grown, right? This new warrior inside your mind to protect yourself from the ones who hurt you. And what your brain does is that it categorizes and says, oh, women that I get my needs met, these specific needs, they're going to hurt me eventually. So let's keep myself safe. Let's develop beliefs, thoughts about women, about marriage, about love, about who she is as a narcissist or bipolar, or she has undiagnosed treatments or whatever it is, or she's been sexually abused, so she must be this way. Her fault, not me. Keep her away. She is danger. And the unfortunate thing is that that part of you grows so much that it becomes your main personality when you're around her. It is not your true self. It is these spikes that develop that whenever someone tries to get close to you in some form or another, they get hurt every single time. This is where you'll see large pockets on the internet of different philosophies where they come up with these beliefs or these euphemisms that they all tend to find true in other women. You see it so much on social media. It's phrases like, she's not yours, it's just your turn. Or all women are solipsistic, or that they will always break boundaries based off how they feel. They won't consider a man. Maybe a part of you has thought this, but the thing is that it's not that it's true. It's that there's a large subset of men who've been hurt by women that have developed these false paradigms of reality, and they all just confirm each other's bias. And you can easily get sucked into it if you don't understand where the source of this pain has come from. And so when Jake went through this process, he kind of fell into an online echo chamber, just confirming his beliefs. And so in his next subsequent relationships, he went from relationship to relationship, staying surface level. And he was able to rationalize that lifestyle and say that it was for the best, is because that's just the way men should be. They were hardwired that way. But the thing is, each time he settled for a woman, he didn't go into depths with her and he pushed her away or self-sabotaged or whatever the case may be, he was giving parts of himself away. And those spikes grew, the bodyguard became more armed and equipped, and things just got worse and worse and worse. Now, at the end of the video, I will teach you how to overcome this with the control method, but let's jump into the second point, where her pain is the protector that seeks closeness. In those moments of pain, when Jake also unloaded lies he held back from Heather, her heart shattered immediately. When she realized that he was her bodyguard who just turned the gun on her, she went in to attack herself. Her protector did what she knew best, to push threats away. Some examples of the things that she said to him was, "You'll never be the man that I need. I will never marry you. Even if you have changed, it's too late. Maybe the next whore you meet will accept your lies. Just give up. You're pathetic." Now look, I want to give you a huge caveat. Some men realize that her pain is speaking, right? And that it's just words and that there's actually pain underneath that anger. While other men will not accept this kind of treatment. That's your own personal discretion, and if you were to walk away, I totally understand if that's totally on you, but first take accountability for how you got there. Now, if I were to talk to Jake myself, I would personally tell him that he should have walked away. Not for good for the relationship. I want him to say something like this: "Look, honey, I know I messed up, and I want to be here to hear all of your pain, to hold that space for you, all the pain I caused, but I can't be attentive and listen to you when you're speaking those words of disrespect, okay?" Now, let's talk about the biggest mistakes a lot of men make when it comes to hearing your painful conversations when her protector is up. When these conversations occur, there is not much you can actually do to positively help her take that pain away, okay? However, you can say and do things to ensure that things will never get over, that you'll keep on bringing it up until time ends, okay? Now, I want to help you avoid those 3 conflict traps, and then we'll talk about how to overcome them in the best way. The first biggest mistake that can cause her protector to stay present, to keep on hurting you, disrespecting you, is to really follow her emotion, which means whenever she's upset, whenever she's criticizing, you are matching her emotion. You're going to get defensive. You're going to get upset. If she's being jealous, you then get jealous. Well, if she says these things, like, let's say, as an example, okay, let's think of a good example. Let's say she wants to go through your social media. She goes, I want to check your social media, see if you messaged anyone, see if you liked anyone. I want to go through that. And normally, your value as a man is like, I will never go through her social media. But then all of a sudden, you're like, well, she did it to me. I need to do it to her. And I understand that you want fairness around that. That's the main value you want. But you are reacting to her in that moment. She did something and you're reacting. That causes you to be feminine. That causes you to have this tit for tat relationship where nothing will heal. The second conflict trap is the turtle paradigm. Sometimes we don't get angry. Sometimes we don't react. Sometimes we just shut down. Now, Jake witnessed this turtle paradigm with his father, right? His father wouldn't get loud. His father wouldn't yell. No, his father would just turtle up, okay? Go into his shell, not say a word for weeks. Jake would walk around the house just tense, looking at his mother, crying randomly, just shutting down, not talking. And his mother was this bubbly, loving, happy person. And he would just look at his father and he would just see this aura of negative, angry energy. It could last for days, it could last for hours, but oftentimes it was weeks. Jake's father would just shut down and just not be there and just be terse and angry, one-word answers. This is worse than getting angry because it shows apathy. And apathy, the opposite of love is indifference. It's not hate, okay? Because at least when you have anger, there's emotion there. The third conflict trap is to run away. If all else fails, if you're not going to be a turtle and shut in, if you're not going to react and follow her emotion, you're going to run away. You're either going to leave the relationship and get with another woman, just hop to the next woman and say, you know what, this next woman will be better. You're bringing yourself into that next relationship too, okay? Or you just leave. You just completely leave and avoid everything. Now, there's a time to walk away, but again, when it goes back to it, when setting that boundary, it's all about having discernment. And the best way to have discernment, whether you should move on or you should be with her and fight through it to be a better man because you can actually unlock her happiness and femininity and love again, you have to have discernment. Now, the best way to get discernment is to talk to an expert who has seen thousands of case examples. And that's what you can do by setting up a call down below with our team. It's absolutely free. We're going to evaluate the best course of action moving forward if it's possible to actually save the marriage and if you should. So if you want that free evaluation, click the link down below. Just make sure you're fully committed and I'd love to take your call. I have a really good friend who's a top lawyer in San Francisco. And every month he sends me these affirmations or these laws or these insights, lessons he's learned from the previous month. And I told him what's up, Charles? I told him I was gonna go ahead and take one of these and make it for one of the points in this video. And what he said was, reactivity is a neon sign pointing to your shadow. Now, I talked about the shadow in a couple other videos. I'll put one at the very end of this one that you can check out how to overcome the shadow. But a shadow essentially is parts of you, hidden parts of yourself that you cannot see. They are aspects of your personality that you push away because you don't like it in yourself. There are deep reasons why you push it away. We're not going to go into depth about that, but just know when you see those parts in others, you hate them. And that is the best way to see where your shadows lie, is how do you react to other people and their personality traits. Let me expand. If you look at someone and let's say you hate that they're selfish or that they avoid things or they're reactive or they're impulsive or whatever it is, your label is just a judgment. You're the one that's saying it's good or it's bad based on if you like it in yourself because that part of you had to push away when you were growing up. So let's look at Jake as an example. Okay, while he was growing up, he's the people pleaser. Now, if the people pleaser, if a nice guy is in the front, is in the light, what's in the shadow is the opposite of that. So what is the opposite of someone who people pleases? Well, someone who is selfish, right? Someone who takes care of me, who is a narcissist, okay? And you can look at it on that spectrum of people pleaser to go ahead narcissist, okay? It's not that one is bad and one is good. Because you could actually take this and reverse it and say, this person says, I'm self-loving. And this person, they hate themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't do things for themselves. They're low self-esteem. You see how you could see the same behavioral traits in someone, but from a different perspective, you can label it completely differently. Now, the reason why this shadow was developed is because Jake saw early on with his father, how his father was extremely selfish. It was all about him, his needs, his wants. He said, go do this for me. I need you to do that for me. And he saw his father and he started to hate him because he looked at that trait and says, I hate that trait in everyone else because I hate my father. My father treated me badly, and so I'm going to disregard and put all his traits into a box and never look at it again. And so what happens with that is that every time Jake saw selfishness in others, especially the woman he was with, he hated her.
he didn't like her. And so whenever she asked for things herself, whenever she demanded, whenever she wanted her needs to be met, whenever she relied on him and she was being dependent, he had this idea of like, why are you like this? But the thing is that because Jake had this people pleaser and his shadow was this self-serving part of him that he never got his needs met. To get his needs met, he had to use covert contracts or indirect ways of doing things for her first in order to get his needs met without directly saying so. And he realized that he could only get his needs met if he was doing something. He couldn't just receive love just because. And these ruined his relationships. And so in order to overcome that, he had to accept his own death. He who fears death will never do anything worth living. Jake experienced bouts of anxiety. He would play out these mental movies, well, actually nightmares, all the time. His wife didn't call him back. She had to be talking to some guy that she was cheating with on the phone. He comes to pick her up at work and sees her talking to a male coworker. They must be flirting. They maybe even are hooking up in the bathroom on breaks. She comes to him calmly, saying, "We have to talk. I have to ask you a question." He thinks that she's about to end it for good. And on and on and on, just tormenting himself with his thoughts. But if you were to sit Jake down and say, out of all those nightmares, out of all those catastrophes you've imagined, what percentage of them have actually come true? It would be 1 in 10,000, if that. If we take that original quote, the way we can turn it around is that, unfortunately, if you listen to fear and long enough, you become a man that is worth dying. I know that is harsh, but you must swallow that bitter pill. That when you listen to your fear enough, you live a stifled, depressing, complacent, weak life. You see, she is in a constant state of fear and anxiety, way more than you. And so she needs you as a man to be that stable person who has courage, that can look the worst possible scenarios in the face and say, you know what, it's okay, I can move forward from this. So I had Jake do an exercise to overcome this fear. I wanted him to imagine himself on his deathbed. It is known as the mortality meditation exercise. Step number 1, you find a quiet place to sit down and reflect for about 20 minutes. Step number 2, visualize yourself on your deathbed. You know your time is about to come. There's no fighting it. You can just feel it. You intuitively know things are about to end. Feel what the room looks like, the temperature, who's in there with you, how you feel, and what you see. The third step is to ask yourself a few questions and really write them out or think about them deeply. When it comes to legacy and impact, what do I want to be remembered for? How did I make a difference in the lives of others? For relationships, did I love fully and allow myself to be loved? Are there relationships I regret not nurturing or mending? For regrets, what opportunities did you pass up that you wish you'd taken? What fears held you back from living authentically? For achievements, did you pursue what truly mattered most? Or did you get distracted by societal expectations? What accomplishments are you most proud of? For fulfillment, did I spend my time on what I valued most? What brought me the greatest joy and meaning in life? For spiritual and existential questions, did I live aligned with my deepest values and purpose? How do I feel about the way I treated myself and others? Answer those questions deeply. They will give you profound shift in your perspective and who you are and what you want. So often you just kind of go to the next, you just read the book, one page to the next, and you don't realize that a whole quarter of your life has passed by. It's time to stop and reflect. So pause the video and please do that. This will give you deeper purpose, gratitude, and vision, perspective on what's important to you. From there, it'll allow you to have more control of your life. And let's talk about that last point of control. The great philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." There's this idea called the law of compensation, in that every action, even thought, has an equal and opposite reaction. It is a foundational law of this reality. It applies to things external to you, forces, gravity, explosions, right? Everything. But it also implies internally. Your thoughts have form and energy, and you are creating everything you have. With Jake, when he told me there was this spiritual moment, when he felt uncertain with her, he wanted to go through her phone. He just said that there had to be something in there that she was hiding. It was an intuitive thing. But then he heard this other voice that he now says is his spiritual guide, his guardian angel. It was a clear voice coming from somewhere else saying, "Don't do it. Stop." And the crazy thing is you can't make this stuff up. Her phone screen was kind of broken, where sometimes it would be unreactive, it would just be black. And other times it would be active. And ironically, every chance he had where she left, where she went to the bathroom, or she walked away out of the room and her phone was there, it was always black for like 7 times. But on the 8th time, she left. She had to go outside, go for a walk. She left her phone in the house. That 8th time he picked up the phone, it wasn't black. And he heard this voice screaming, "Put it down, put it down, put it down, don't go through it." But he had to know. He opened Pandora's box. He looked, and he found exactly what he was searching for. He was shaking, having a traumatic response, going through her phone, reading the messages from this guy that she was having an emotional affair with, that she was talking dirty to. His heart was broken and shattered. Now, I understand logically, you can think that happened. It was there even when he didn't look. But Jake said he had a spiritual moment where he knew that there are multiple realities. And in the reality in which he didn't open that phone, she didn't have that affair. I know it sounds crazy. It's like, how can you prove that? You can't. But Jake knew that for himself, that his fear confirmed what he believed, that he created that, and that if he fully trusted her, it wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't actually have had the affair. I know that sounds out of this world. I know it does. But I subscribe to that belief too. And that everything you do, everything you think will become true. But when things happen like this to you, when it happened to Jake, you have to ask yourself, was this happening to you or for you? And how is this happening for you? When it comes to controlling your life, you have to start believing that everything that has happened to you, good and bad, is because of you. You created it. You are the one that created it. Everything, whether it was, I don't care how traumatic it was or how great it was, it's because of you. What that does for you is it helps you step more into the empowered state instead of the powerless state, where you know that if you come across future obstacles that are inevitable to happen, you have more capability to deal with it because you believe you created it. However, if you believe that she victimized you, it's her fault, that she led you there, you are stepping into your feminine, powerless, weak state. Instead, step into the idea that you have the full ability to create whatever you want. You are immensely powerful, more powerful than you realize. You can save your marriage. You can get her back if you truly wanted it. If every fiber of your being, no matter how much she tests you, no matter how much you think it's over, it's helpless, you believe with utter certainty that you can create her, you can get it back. I've seen it with so many of our couples, the men we work with, they get her back when they believe they can. And if I see the comments on the videos, the guys helping the other guys, but there's some men that come there and say it's hopeless, there's no point. Yeah, if you believe it, then yeah, there is no point. But if there's that voice in the back of your head that knows the truth, that you can win her back, that you can grow, that she's the woman for you, then you are going to create that, okay? If you need help with that, you can set up a call with our team down below. We'll love to support you around that. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.